we are live. If anybody has cell phones, just please turn them on silent. And in 2 minutes, we'll start because it's not time yet.
Jesse, you can move the chairs. We need to. Orange County.
Ballet and ballet and ballet.
Why is that our website not
No,
working?
you can't.
I was gonna say.
A little version of me does. A mini,
Yeah,
a
but
mini
that
me.
shouldn't happen. I don't know why it's our website.
Sleeping Beauty.
Nice.
On Saturday.
Darcy all of a sudden.
What?
I blame my wife. She keeps getting off lines. No, I'm good now.
I know the feeling.
There's another side.
My daughter just finished her freshman year of college. Oh, wow.
The ballet.
And more ballet. I just got to see her perform, but she was a teacher.
Oh my gosh.
She's in a couple of
Thank God I have the paperwork here.
My daughter's.
It's not working, or
No, the website's down.
Where? Syracuse. Nice.
we can go with that.
Architecture. Very cool.
That's a good one.
It's 7:30.
Okay, now we have
All right.
Thank you, yes.
Alright, good evening, everyone. This is the planning board, Village of Warwick, May 13th, 2025 meeting. The first thing we're going to do is stand for pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Jesse Gallo,
here.
Brian Barber,
Here.
Kerry Boland is absent, Scott Brown,
Here.
Bill Olson,
I'm here.
and Vanessa Holland. James Samuelson is filling in for Keith Woodruff tonight. And Liz is recusing herself from this application, but she is here.
Okay.
Elizabeth Cassidy.
Move to approve the minutes of April 8th.
I'll second.
Second that. Oh,
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Alright, so on to the applications. The first one on the agenda tonight is 10 Cottage Street.
Come on up. Yep.
Evening.
Hi. So if you want to just give like a brief overview of what your application includes.
I simply want to split the property, generally, as close to equal lots as possible. To sell the vacant lot for, hopefully for someone to build a home on.
Okay, so there's no plans presently to subdivide and build. It's just
No, I'm not
to
looking to build.
subdivide
We're
and
not looking
sell
to
the
build.
piece of property.
just subdivide, yeah.
Okay.
But the two lots will be consistent with others on this,
Yeah.
on the block, I believe. Looking from the lot map.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was a rather large piece of property, it seems, and like I said, one time it included this larger piece of property too.
Yeah, Jim Prioval's previous owner had subdivided that out.
Right,
There was a
Maybe 89 or.
3 hours right before this house was
Something
built.
around
And did
we were asked, it was suggested that we mock up, just a footprint of a building there.
It's here.
Yes, for,
Yeah, with the,
For visual purposes.
right,
Thank you.
right,
You're welcome.
conceptual.
Here's the existing one.
And did you receive a copy of the engineer's comments?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Did you want to go through some of those?
If you, yeah, if you'd like me to. There, I'm not gonna read through the first three, those are just comments on the short environmental assessment form. You're
Indiana
perfectly
path.
capable of reading through those, right?
Self-explanatory.
Right, exactly. And so the next question is, would this be a single-family house or a two-family house?
The
You don't
existing-
know.
The existing or
Yeah,
what would be
the,
built?
oh, sorry, the existing dwelling
The existing dwelling is two-family.
is a two-family, okay. Two-family.
And then this to be sold.
Yes.
Right, right. And then, so the next comment is the big one. So the zoning code requires certain lot areas with setbacks. And so there's quite a few of them, lot area, lot width, front setback, front yard, side setback, front, street frontage, lot depth, and floor area ratio that doing the subdivision would not comply with.
Yes.
And so, that would require you to go to the zoning board of appeals to get the variance for all of those items. I don't know, sorry, I'm not familiar with your procedures, but a lot of towns or villages will send a recommendation to the zoning board from the planning board, it's giving a positive or negative recommendation based on your feeling of the planning of this project. So that would be up to you guys to make a decision on whether you want to send a recommendation along with.
The referral.
And then, once that variance is received, then we can move forward with the full design, grading, water, sewer, and construction details.
So we would need to have, even though we're not planning on building, we need to,
In order to subdivide, yes, in order to file a subdivision.
This is too small, right?
Yeah, the
Both
lot's too
these are too small.
small.
Right, essentially it would be,
But
you'd
you're
be
asking about the
subdividing into
grading. You were asking about the
I'm
grading.
asking about construction,
Setbacks.
actually. Yeah, grading, water, sewer, and construction details in number 7.
Right. We need to see where the water line's gonna come in to make sure you have proper separation. You have to see
Oh.
the same thing with the
All right, so
sewer
it's
lines.
not an actual architect plan of a building.
No, no, no. This would just be site plan details.
Oh, all right.
Yep.
Does anybody have any?
I'm a little curious about how you provide the front setback, side setback requirements without a building on the other lot. Or are you referring to the existing building?
Well, existing and
Existing, because it's
proposed.
making the existing one even more non-conforming, right?
Correct.
So
Right.
you're doing the-
Well, you certainly have street frontage and you have total area.
Not once you make the subdivision, you do, you don't.
No,
Yeah,
I mean, in play, in terms of requiring a variance. Street front, total
That-
area.
That's pre-existing, right?
Probably setbacks.
yeah,
There's several
lot, so
setbacks.
lot area,
Mm-hmm.
need
Lot area.
20,000 feet.
Yep.
Each one of these is
Mm-hmm.
You have a
smaller than that.
35-foot front setback.
Right.
But the neighborhood itself, I mean, my existing house that has a, I believe, 9-foot from,
Yeah, even less.
Here to here to here.
yeah,
That's 9 foot there.
oh no, the front.
Yeah,
Oh, the
yeah,
front
six
is-
and a half
So I
or
guess,
so.
It says
my
six-
my
says 6
question's
foot.
about which of those elements actually need to be addressed at this point. And
I think all of
lot-
them.
Every
Well-
single one of them.
Yeah.
A front setback, does that refer to the existing building or a
Yes.
hypothetical building?
Both,
But the existing building is not being changed,
correct.
so presumably
so
it
what you're
has a
doing is-
grandfathered variance.
Well, until you do the subdivision, it's existing non-conforming right now. But
Pre-existing.
when you make it even more non-conforming,
Right.
then you need to get the setback, or the variance for that setback.
So the lot line or the subdivision changes that. It's kind of like there's nothing there. You have to treat it that way.
Right.
Okay,
As long as they don't change anything, they don't need anything, right?
yeah.
But as soon as you decide that you're gonna make a subdivision and make the lot, divide the two lots, then
Yeah.
they each need to stand on their own.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay.
There's a proposed driveway here. You don't have a driveway now in this house?
There is, the driveway is here.
It's not shown on the map, okay. There's a driveway here somewhere?
Yes. Yes, this, where it says proposed is an actual existing driveway. It's an actual parking area.
Is it paved or just dirt?
It
or-
isn't paved.
It's gravel.
It's not paved.
It's gravel right
It's-
So should you
rock
write
and
that, should
gravel.
that be, indicate that there's existing gravel driveway there?
now. It could be,
Oh,
yeah,
here.
listed
I'm
as
sorry.
existing
Right here.
gravel.
Oh, it is.
Oh, here it is over here.
Right, so
Existing,
these are the proposed, if they
Okay.
were to build
Okay.
something here, subdivide, that would be the driveway for this, and that would be the
Yeah,
driveway
right.
potentially
Oh,
right,
for that.
I see,
Okay,
all
okay, yep.
right,
building.
this is to be removed. Got it,
But these are all hypothetical.
yeah,
Because
Right.
right now, you're not proposing subdividing and building a structure on that piece of property.
but if you subdivide, you'd have to have this driveway here.
Yes.
Correct.
That would be, that you'd have to have.
Correct.
Yeah, because
There
this would no
should
longer
be a
be
variance
required.
for this building, for a front setback. That's the only thing I was asking about. But it doesn't really matter to me.
For aesthetics, now this was John McGloin put this in, but aesthetically, that driveway, if it could move towards the, if it's not possible, I don't know, maybe it isn't possible to move the proposed driveway.
What's
But
the-
aesthetically, it would be closer to the,
What would be the setback you have to have for a driveway from the, if they wanted to have this subdivision, what's the setback if they set the, this driveway over further? Isn't there a little, can they have the driveway right up to the,
Well, that's what we ran into before, is you can have a driveway, you can't park cars there. You can't show that as a parking spot in a setback.
no, that's what I thought.
So they just have to have the proposed driveway.
But maybe you should go
Off
this
of the
way,
setback.
this way,
Yeah, I think
like
it's
that.
10 feet.
Yeah.
This says it's 20
Turn,
feet.
turn,
sides.
flip it over.
that makes sense to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, so the next step is the zoning board of appeals. So we have to refer.
Are you giving a positive or a negative recommendation to the zoning board? I think that's what Jane was,
Yeah, I'm not sure
was
how
saying.
we've never actually done
I know.
that in the past.
I
where
know.
We've recommended one way or the other.
Okay.
Not sure what are your thoughts, anybody?
You're right, we haven't done it. Typically, we haven't done it.
No, we've just referred. We haven't really put our
Something new?
opinion on something.
Is this, you're doing it in a different way as far as referring as in a positive or a negative? This is a,
Yeah, Turkish, or
To make a
I guess.
recommendation.
Yeah, historically, we've just actually, usually would just go directly to the zoning board of appeals
Yeah.
without any sort of recommendation or opinion from this board. And I'm comfortable with that in this instance. I'm not sure if everybody else is, or if they want to add any sort of
With
recommendation.
not making a recommendation?
That's the way we've always done it.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Is there a benefit to offering our opinion in either way? Does it help the process go faster in any way, or halt it faster?
No, that's,
So it's not
that-
wasting time?
so what Jane is bringing up
Yeah.
is other municipalities have
Right.
done that before.
No, I understand,
So-
but does
so
it
I
help in
think
any
that-
way?
I think it does help. It helps the zoning board understand from a planning board's perspective, your opinion of the application.
also kind of lets us know if we're chasing our tails or not.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
I'll go on there.
That's the other thing, is you're helping the applicant by letting him know
What you're,
where you stand
Yeah.
on this application. Yeah, rather than having him go through a lengthy process to then have to come back here and then.
Yeah, I'm happy stating my opinion that relative to the lots around this, particularly the three on the backside of this lot, these lots are larger than their
Yeah,
neighbors. And I don't see any reason that the variances shouldn't be granted. Of course, that's not up to us. But given the variances, that this plan or something very much like it shouldn't be approved by us. And I wouldn't have any problem making that referral with a recommendation that says we feel positive. I do. I understand that.
How have you seen without giving a lot of detail, because they don't have a lot of detail, how do you make sort of a broad,
I think you could use exactly the language that you just said. You could say, based on the existing lots in the area, we feel that, as long
it
as
fits into the character of the
that it
neighborhood?
fits in the character of the neighborhood, and the planning board therefore.
I have one other question though. On lot number, what's the next one over, lot number 13.2? There's a house here. Where is it located to where this could be? Would the setback from this house impact where they could build the house here?
Well, the setback on the other
Yeah.
lot would be
I don't
for that
know.
other lot, so it's not gonna impact.
It will not impact
their-
it, so-
No.
Okay,
Them
just checking on that. I didn't think so, but I'll be sure.
Yeah, they actually have quite a large backyard.
Yeah,
It's fenced.
okay. It's fenced?
This,
Yeah,
this,
there's fence
this
here?
yard here has a fence around
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Yeah, this fence, is this encroaching?
Sorry.
You have a fence, is this encroaching? Is that what this is?
That looks
I
like
did
it
not
is.
construct that fence. It does look like it's on my property.
Yeah, it
So
looks like it's
they-
encroaching from your neighbors.
So they're gonna need some kind of agreement with that, right?
Yes, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Either an easement or
Mhm.
have the neighbor move the fence.
One or the other,
Right.
yeah.
As far as the recommendation, I believe you have another attorney representing.
Yes.
So I'm sure they have the language that they could write up a letter for you to send on to the zoning board with a, if you wanted to go that route.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
I'm comfortable with it, but I almost say, since it's kind of blindsided a little bit, if we kind of abstain and have like a session later about discussing what we would kind of look at for the parameters before we do recommend or deny, because that could be a powerful recommendation or something we're recommending against. So versus kind of on the spot right now being, it's something new, we've never done it before. I'd ask almost for more time and deliberation before we kind of make that a formal process. But with this, I don't see any issues with it at all, so I will say that, so.
That's fair.
Well, we're gonna have the same discussion in two.
So, and we will have
Yeah.
legal representation,
It's
so,
precedent, there
Yes,
you go.
yes, exactly.
so I'm biting my tongue, I'm really.
Okay.
So what, do we make a decision? I don't think we should write any recommendation. We haven't in the past. Historically, we haven't. I don't think it'll have an impact on this application. I don't think so. So I don't think we should open that up to, if you did it this one, you have to do another one and change our procedure. I'd recommend not doing it.
If we do, let's look at it later, not just when we can fully kind of deliberate and look into it kind of a thing. Not just kind of make the call that, okay, 5-minute notice, we're gonna go forward doing it like that.
Yeah.
So you're going to send them to the ZBA?
Refer them
That's
to the
period,
ZBA.
end of
Yeah.
story.
Yep.
No letter.
heard our
You just-
collective
You're just
thoughts.
referring to the ZBA. Okay?
I thought
Thank
the
you.
majority of us were comfortable with the letter.
Oh, well,
If you guys still
you
wanna do it,
want-
they could.
So you
they have to have
want
the
to
votes, yeah.
talk to the attorney and have the attorney drop a letter? Okay, so do you know the process? So how do you want to go about that? How are you going to speak to the attorney? She's not here tonight. So we'll have to wait
So
until
pending discussion with the attorney, right, then we could.
But we'll have to have that at the next planning board meeting then. Ashley will have to come to the next planning board meeting. It's fine,
Yeah.
it's totally up to you
Well, I
guys.
mean,
So,
you can just direct her to write the letter.
Yes.
She
Or
can watch the video and hear the discussion, so she knows.
I don't really know if that's what can happen. I have to talk about it. It's an open meetings law, so I don't know. I'm sorry if Ashley has to, I don't know the process. I have to make sure. I don't know if that's what can happen. The public has, you know what I'm saying?
So I'll stand by my recommendation
So
not
if you
to
want to
have
do
a
it that
letter.
way,
Yeah,
I have to explore all the right steps. And in the best interest of that, that means they would come to the next planning board meeting in the interim. So we wouldn't delay the applicants, and then I'd have Ashley come to the next meeting. And then we could talk about it there. If Ashley says, yes, I can draw up the letter, the public doesn't have to be here, etc., then yeah, we could do that, if that's what the board would like
in
to
the
do.
best interest of time and effort on all parts, is it in this matter to just say, yes, you're going to the zoning board and maybe forgo the recommendation, because it seems like it's more red tape right now. It might actually slow you down until we have a better organized method.
That-
I don't think any of us want to be a blockade for you, and if it sounds like you have to come back in a month just to get our opinion, I don't know that that's the best
And-
use of anyone's time.
And putting it down on paper in a letter isn't going to change any of your opinions really that much anyway. I mean,
Right.
No guarantee
You
that we would have
probably
any.
The way the zoning
Yeah.
board of appeals.
In theory, yes, in
But
theory.
I'm still not sure I understand why we have to wait another month to ask the lawyer in an open meeting.
Because I
whether she
have
can
to,
write a
I
letter
would
or
have
not.
to make sure.
Isn't that up to us to make a recommendation to the
It's,
ZBA?
the thing that's not up to you is if I don't know if the public has to hear what Ashley's going to say. That's the part that's not up to you. That's the unfortunate part. I'm sorry. But we have to be open to the public
Can,
for the open meetings law.
Liz, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, because that's something you can weigh in on the process, like
Sure.
does the
I'm
attorney.
gonna-
That would
This
be-
comment is on process only and not the
Correct,
particulars
correct.
of this application. This board has typically, when they've done a referral, sent a simplistic based on we're referring you to the ZBA for these and identify the
Yeah.
area variances. In my limited experiences, which is now only going on is about a year with this board, we have not done that on any application. You can authorize your attorney to draft a recommendation. I do generally agree, since it's a step away from precedent. From a timing purpose, it does not, the ZBA is going to have statutory factors to consider. And if the application doesn't, if the ZBA finds the application doesn't meet those standards, it could be the best thing since sliced bread with your referral. That does, if the board makes those statutory findings that it doesn't warrant a variance, your recommendation.
Doesn't even.
And I have had municipalities where the planning board said, yes, the applicant can achieve the project without variances, but the project with variances is a better project, and the ZBA denied the variances. So, that's, for timing purposes, the fastest is to do a straight, no comment, referral. My only other, point, and I'm gonna defer to Jane here, is, the treatment of seeker. And just, because I do believe it's an unlisted action. I think the easiest for everybody is if we do an uncoordinated review, so that they're not doing the back and forth flip-flopping. The ZBA can treat theirs, because area variances are typically, for single-family homes, typically a type 2. We would still be an unlisted, so that's probably the approach I would take with this nature of this application. So again, without commenting on the specifics of the application. If we coordinate, then you know that we have to have the back and forth, and we have to finish seeker before they can make a determination. We could go through that whole process, and the ZBA could say no. So I would suggest an uncoordinated review for this particular one.
So you could
You,
vote to be.
you could refer them to the ZBA like you've always done, without a letter.
Mm-hmm, yes.
And then make a motion for an uncoordinated review, right?
Correct.
Type 2.
It's-
Okay, so
Well, we're not a
What-
type 2, the ZBA is a
the
type 2.
ZB, right.
We're just making the referral.
Yes,
Make a referral and uncoordinated review.
so that's up to you, then that's up to you, what you wanna do.
I'll move that we refer the applicants to the ZBA and treat this for secret purposes as an uncoordinated review.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your time.
We'll see you again.
Appreciate it.
Shows up on here.
Check that fence there.
Fence, yeah.
Yeah.
This is the map that shows that other
Catch.
Oh, okay.
house. So it's
Sorry.
Leaves up there. They're out,
Sorry, OML. Open meeting.
yeah, this is the front of the house.
Yeah.
and
Like,
yeah,
I
it's-
don't, yeah, like,
But it's all, I know, there's a fence around the whole
Okay.
project, so it's even a house
Yeah.
here is pretty far away.
About the same, but I-
Yeah, the lots are,
Yeah.
I mean, I live on a corner lot, I know what it's like.
It fits the neighborhood. Get back here.
The website is down.
our website is down, just to let you know, but I still can put things up on the,
Right.
I can still put things up on the board.
It's on the agenda.
25
It's
Main.
25 Main, whenever Jesse's.
Yeah, is there, your set
Ready.
list?
Yeah, I can get that.
25 Main.
Main Street, okay.
Welcome. So brief overview of your application.
Moving our existing business from 16 McEwen to 25 Main. Ice cream shops.
Who's in 25 Main now?
Caliata Jewelry Shop?
Oh, okay.
It's empty now.
Yeah. Well,
Almost,
ish.
she's got like
Mostly.
one, yes,
Mostly.
one little display.
Yeah, necklaces.
Yeah.
This is a change of use.
Can I just say, I'm so glad it's you guys, because when I first saw this come up on the agenda.
Thought there was gonna be
I
another
thought,
ice cream store.
Oh, no, that place around the corner is so nice.
Thank you.
That's my same thought too, actually. All right, so Liz, do you want to start off with some of your comments then?
Sure. So as you know, this is located in the Central Business Zoning District. The planning board is authorized to grant a waiver of site plan approval where it determines that the change in use, proposed use will not result in any increase in the intensity of use of the buildings or the land, which will significantly affect the characteristics of the site and of the village. I draw the board's attention to the specific requirements of 145-99C. A change of use waiver application is a type 2 action under seeker. C 145-99A1, see also a 6 NYCRR 617 C18. In the event that the board does find that there are there's an increase in intensity for whatever that may be, and I'm not suggesting that, the option for the board is to decline the waiver, and then the applicant would proceed to site plan approval. There were a couple of little nitpicks on the application. My understanding from Kristen is that those have been taken care of. Sorry, I'm a lawyer, I have to make sure the application is filled out correctly. And so that's about it. So that, it sounds like the board is familiar with the applicant and the particular use in their existing location.
Does the change to food service require county input?
They may have I would
Department of
anticipate
Health.
health permits,
Yeah.
but from your perspective, we can certainly make that a condition of your waiver, that
Yeah.
applicant, in the generalized sense, that applicant to obtain all required permits. But from a land use perspective,
None.
the health department permit doesn't necessarily. Things you'd be looking for is there a significant increase in water usage,
Right.
you know? You're going from a car showroom to a car wash, that's a significantly larger, and I'm just using the absurd to make my point. So you're really looking, is foot traffic gonna be different, parking standards gonna be different, those are the types of standards you're looking for. But this is a fairly typical application we see along the main drag.
Did you have anything?
So just, I'll just just go through the comments. So if there's any changes to the exterior of the building, which I'm assuming there will not be, right? So just know that you would have to get approval from the village's architectural and historic review board if you wanted to make any changes. There's some.
The
parking-
applicants already did.
Oregon.
They already went to the HDRB.
Oh,
Sorry,
got
I
it.
just wanted to interject that
Okay.
so the board knows.
That makes it, that does
Yes.
make a difference.
Yeah.
There are some parking spots in the rear of the building. Will any of those be used by this tenant, or are those for the rest of the building?
Two of them would be ours.
Two are
Okay,
designated.
so two would be designated for you, okay. So, the next comment just basically says, based on the use, it would require, a few more parking spots than the retail use. The ice cream store would require about 5 more spaces. But they are within, 300 feet of the parking lot,
Yeah.
so,
Main Street.
yeah, they're fine there. Provide the number of seats, which I think is now in the application. And then also the number of employees, so I think that we have all the information that we need.
Okay, great. I think typically we've gone through the change of use application, I think.
Okay.
Just read through just to make sure
Okay.
everyone is aware of it.
Yes. Yes.
Got on the Jumbotron.
Yeah. It's our nice
Because I was
jumbotron.
trying
Okay,
while I
so
was out there.
go ahead. I mean,
Right, so it's, obviously we have the owner's information and the applicant's information. It's central business zoned.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The existing is a business and service. The proposed is the same, so there's no change there. Existing use is retail, as we just discussed on the first floor. Was second and third floor, those are apartments?
Apartments.
Yeah, apartments, okay. So, I don't know if we have a hard copy?
oh, I have a hard
I have right
copy.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just put.
Here.
I got it right here.
Or chain, or I guess it's a.
Here.
Existing. Okay, so we're gonna see apartments.
Pick up apartment, right, good point.
Alright, so there's no change to that. Proposed use is an ice cream shop. Once again, central business, use group K. It's in the historic district, but as you've noted, there's no changes to the exterior other than I think about a sign, which is probably what you went in front of the board for.
They already got it approved.
Right, so that's done. There's no easements. The only interior changes, paint, floor, counter, seats, tables. Sewer and water, looks like it's about the same, unchanged from the existing proposed. Number of employees is the same, which makes sense, customers are roughly the same. So the only thing here I would say, because you did say that you have 2 parking spaces available, so we should note that, I think, here, because right now it says 0 on the application.
We can modify that to reflect 2 on-site parkings.
Yeah.
0 loading spaces is correct.
Yep. Deliveries. Once every 2 weeks. Loading areas are the same on the street. And then waste removal. Is that, do you have, I guess, a can in the back?
Yeah,
or
a can.
that's where they come? Okay. So that's the same as the current operation. And let's see. No more intensity of exterior light, and there's no drainage. No more increase of demand of municipal services. routinely produce odors? No. And
Good
noise
maybe.
levels are not going to exceed ambient noise levels. Proposed hours are 1 to 9 p.m. 7 days a week. And are there any outside approvals required for the proposed use? I guess this is where we would note.
Just, you can note the sign, the existing sign approval from the ADA chart that said.
AHD, Dr. B, AHDRB,
AH.
DRB.
All right.
What is your
Dr. B, I've got to
Oh.
remember that one.
Remember that one.
Architectural Historic District Review
Yeah.
Board.
And then
Say that 10 times fast.
Jesse, if everybody votes on this tonight and everybody is in agreement, can you sign that tonight while
Yes.
you're here? Okay.
Yeah.
You need a pen though?
Yeah, I'm writing with a pencil.
Yeah,
You
you're
don't
right.
like a pencil, huh? Okay.
Don't erase.
Thank you.
Would the DOH go in there, or we're just
No,
do that
that's
separately?
that's a separate.
okay? Signs
department.
by the applicant and the owner, and Kristen. Alright, so here we go. Completed by the Village of Warwick Planning Board. Has the information in this waiver application been reviewed for
Yes.
completeness and accuracy? Yes.
Yes.
Does this application require formal site plan review approval by the planning board?
Your vote.
No.
It's your
So-
vote.
No.
Oh, we have to vote.
You have
You
to
have
vote.
to
Is there a
vote.
motion?
Yeah.
So I'll make a.
Is there a motion for that?
If you're gonna
Do you want to
have
make a motion?
You need a motion to make a vote.
So.
Can I have a motion
Yeah.
to
If you think that,
waive the site plan?
To waive the site plan.
yeah.
Wait,
I
site
move
plan
that we
review.
waive the site plan review.
Okay.
Is there a
I'll
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Waive
Yes.
approval.
Yay.
Waive approval, yeah.
And just let the record reflect that, that waiver is, subject to compliance with their existing sign approval, and that, I just had, obtaining all required permits, including DOH and building department permits.
Sure.
That was helpful.
Your customary standard, subject to use.
Do we need a separate
Okay.
Just
resolution to
remind me.
approve the change of use? But that's,
No, by waiving it.
By waiving it,
you
we
approve the
approve it.
change of
Just
use,
that.
yeah.
They're so good.
Because they
I
could
love
still,
change lanes. Yes.
the use is as of right, but it's still subject to, it could be subject to
Are
site
they
plan.
done?
They're done.
Oh,
Yeah.
bye.
I
Bye.
think she wants to get out of here, right?
Sorry.
That's how you wash your glasses.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Bye. Thank you so much. Have a nice
Thank you.
night. Bye.
Think that feels like that?
All right.
I mean, I don't have to type over a resolution.
Nothing.
No.
Who's next?
28 Wheeler.
28.
All right, next
Like
on the
Jesse's.
agenda is 28 Wheeler Avenue.
But wait, Jesse's still doing that.
Yeah,
And that I need.
just trying to write over my.
So we have Chris and
Yours won't be that quick, so.
yes.
Oh, come on, I don't wanna just keep it going, you guys are in a great mood. We're gonna sit around the dinner table, we should've brought dinner.
No, no, can't, we don't do that. Okay.
Thank you, Jesse. Jesse, do you want the pen? No?
No, I think.
No? Okay, you're good.
All right, so if you want to give a brief overview of the application?
Sure. My name's James McIntyre, partner Chris Kmichak, we're both residents of the town of Warwick. Our engineer is Brian Friedler, he would be with us tonight, however, his
Did the
wife was
baby
induced this morning.
Oh,
No.
did she have the baby yet?
We don't know, but he said he was gonna try to wait. We're like, please don't.
We can send an email.
No, I fully agree with
Yeah,
that.
yeah. This is exciting.
So we'll handle this the best that we can in his absence. By trade, I work in the city. I'm a business manager and planner. Chris is a landscaper and has multiple businesses in the region. Together for the last 15 years, we've been involved in real estate projects from buying, selling, renting, rehabbing, flipping, subdividing, building from scratch. We've done it all. We've been approved, we've been denied, we've been through the process. We enjoy doing it, and this is part of that fun. And we were able to pick up this property off market as a single-family home. We love that it's in the village of Warwick. We think it's a really nice house with a lot of character on the inside. The family that was living there, that we took it over from, we bought it as is and as in condition with everything except for the cats, which we asked to be removed. But everything the cats left behind was not the best situation. So as we started to peel back the layers of the house, we found the roof was leaking. There's a eat-in kitchen on the house that's actually here, where the foundation has settled and pulled away from the house about 4 inches. So there's a lot more that the house requires than we realized. And having been through this process before, in the background of my business is how do you maximize the investment that you're making, and Chris has the resources to be able to do anything that we can do. And we've done projects like this before, and we said, okay, if we have a couple of options to maximize the value. We could add bedrooms, we could convert it to a 2-family. When we look at the neighborhood, behind us is apartment complexes. Across the street is a 2-family, diagonally is a 2-family. Across the street is the municipal parking lot with the downtown district. And then immediately next door is a beautiful single family home that we would want our house to conform to what the neighborhood looks like overall, including that house. So we engaged Boris and Kristen, talked about the overall process. We're very well aware that several variances are required. We were saying, we know that the variances are required, kick us right to the zoning board and we can start there and come to the planning board. So we recognize that our application, I don't want to say that it's incomplete, but without having the variances, we can't go forward. So before we spend thousands in fees with the engineer to plan everything perfectly, wanted to put this in front of you as kind of the rough sketch of what we're thinking, get your ideas and thoughts before going to the zoning board, and then when we return, all of the comments that were included by the engineer, the attorney, which we're not supposed to answer tonight, but we're prepared for if you would like, we would address all of those things when we come back to the planning board if the variance is granted.
So is this a whole new envelope, or a rebuild?
No, so the existing dwelling would remain with the exception of that eat-in kitchen that's falling off of the house. That has to come off no matter what. And candidly,
Wood deck too?
the wood deck would be removed, yes.
Right, because that's where you'd be building.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where we would be building. So
Okay.
it's funny, the structure that's there already, there is a massive deck on the back of the house, which is in disrepair as well. When you're upstairs in the house and in your bathroom, because it's an older style house, the roof pitch is like this. So you're hitting your head in the bedroom, you're hitting your head in the bathroom. It needs a roof. The eating kitchen on that side of the house is falling off. It really makes sense whether it's a 2-family home or single-family home. That has to come off in the roof. It really makes sense to do a dormer. If you're investing that kind of money, you're doing new footings and everything, it makes sense to go a little bit further. So when you think about the building envelope, I know that by going 2-family, which is permitted, it's a more restrictive bulk table. When it's also a corner lot, so there's 2 front yards. When you look at the existing front yard on Wheeler and also the existing front yard on, I think it's Cherry that's there, we are not changing the setbacks on either front yard. When you look at what would be the backyard, that backyard setback is not changing. The side yard setback, I believe, is 25 feet, and we would be staying within that 25-foot setback.
That's the one variance you don't need.
That's the one
And
variance we don't need.
that's all, that would all be parking, so there's plenty of room for 4 cars.
Actually, we can get actually 6 cars in there, and I do know that adequate screening is needed, and with Chris being a landscaper,
need screening,
that's
yeah.
actually the easiest part of this whole project.
So our comprehensive master plan says that we desire more middle and low
Two-family house.
two-family houses would fit very nicely into our master plan in the neighborhood
So you're kicking us to the zoning board recommending that
where it
project.
is. Or
That's a
I
joke.
guess-
I would say, I would use the word refer.
Yeah,
referring
it's an arbor.
Yes, refer.
Yeah. The recommendation was the joke. But it's really the conversation.
He was paying attention.
Yeah.
You're very well spoken, it is
He was
great.
paying attention.
Yes.
Yes, that part of
I mean,
it.
if he
I'm
wants
very-
a recommendation, I
I'm
suppose
very
it could
impressed
continue
at the
60 days.
presentation.
No, it's the way this project works. If you actually look at the folder, and Kristen and I sat down and did this, and this is just the bureaucracy of doing this. If you follow the meeting, we'll be back here at best September 9th, which means we're breaking ground in October, which is not ideal. But that's just the way it goes by going to the zoning board, coming back to the planning board, and that's assuming we get everything done 100% correct.
How many square feet can you give each of these families?
The existing dwelling I could pull up the tax record really quick. The existing dwelling, I don't think would change very much. I think it's around 1,500 square feet.
I was just say 1,400.
And the dwelling that we would add will be in excess of the 900 square feet. We wouldn't look to go beyond what is proposed there, but we haven't done anything as far as as far as an elevation. We know that we would want 2 bedrooms, 1 to 1.5 bathrooms. The entrance, which was one of the questions from the engineer, the entrance would remain the same for that existing house. Where the parking is here, the entrance would either be on the back side of the house or on the front side of the house. So if you have 2 front yards, both front yards are being used for front door access.
So the one you're building would be what, the 2-bedroom here, and this is where you want the 3-bedroom?
That's an existing 2-bedroom that would
Okay.
remain a 2-bedroom, and this is an existing. We would keep that a 2-bedroom,
Yeah.
and this is a proposed like a 2-bedroom as well.
So this piece that's falling off the house would become part of this.
Right.
So this will be drawing 1, drawing 2
Correct.
in that area.
Correct.
This one would just be slightly larger.
Right, right.
So I'm gonna, just stir the pot a little bit. Because there's an actual plan, right? We're seeing the plan. There's no way for us to recommend based on what we're seeing
Well,
alongside of.
you have the
our
attorney
zoning
here.
act.
Your attorney is here.
attorney's here,
As opposed to
so-
the other
I mean,
applicant,
it is a different scenario because that was completely hypothetical,
Well,
and
so
the
is-
attorney wasn't
not
here.
to-
So-
We have the best of both worlds. We have a drawing. We want to expedite
No,
in
we don't.
some ways.
Oh,
well,
ask
let me
Liz.
go, let me go,
It's
let me
Liz.
go, let me go
We
through the
don't have a full
comments.
drawing, right?
Pandora's
And
box.
It's my personal.
And certainly, I would suggest that even if there's not a formal written recommendation, that the applicant may and the ZBA may avail themselves of the minutes, which would reflect this conversation. So, just throwing that out there. Okay, just to run through my comments, you are in the R zoning district with the limited office overlay zone. It is a permitted, 2-family is permitted in the LO zone subject to site plan and is categorized as use group G. The site plan is required, normally the site plan, because the proposed project is not compliant with the bulk table. If it complied, you wouldn't need site plan because it's a single family house, 2-family. So just be aware the site for that is 145-90A1 and 2. This is a nitpick. You are just close enough to New York State Route 94. Just have them pop a measurement on that. I measured, it was like, they
It's
might,
550 feet at least.
okay, if it's 550 feet, then we can ignore
What's-
239.
What's the limit, 500?
500.
Yeah,
Squeak
it is,
in
they
there.
just actually
Every once
missed
in a
it
while, like
because I put it
I'm
in
doing it on like
Seven,
Google
I
Earth
think.
and it's not like official. I have the engineer certify what the distance is,
Yeah,
so.
and that's fine if you can, but I did it as like conservative as I could, and it was at least 500.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I was
I'm-
close, I'll make,
Yeah.
I
I'll-
did it on Municity too, and it's farther than 500
okay,
feet.
that's fine. The good news for you is that the proposed expansion, both the proposed expansion and the associated variances are type 2, so we do not need to worry about coordinated or uncoordinated review because they'll be type 2 actions under secret, so just be aware of that. That's 6 NYCRR 617.5C, 11, 16, and 17. The property is a corner lot requiring 2 front yards. Your code does require that yards be marked on the site plan, so they get to pick which one's the rear yard, which one's the side yard. I think this is the side yard, this is the rear yard.
Rear yard.
We'll just have to mark that on the plan, but that's easy. Based on my review of this, I am of the opinion that the following variances, and this may be overkill, but since they're going, they might as well go for every single, get interpretations on all of them at least. Minimum lot area 22.5 to 4863. Lot width 125 to 50. Front yard Cherry Street is 40 feet to 10.5. Front yard 40 feet to 16.7. Rear yard setback 35 feet to 15.8. Side yard 15 feet to 12. Development coverage 35% to 42. And this is kind of the same part of the discussion you had on the prior application with regard to the front yard. Yes, they're not physically changing the front yard, but they're going from a more restrictive use group. They're going from a less restrictive use group to a more restrictive use group So the standards become more restrictive, and so that they're effectively touching it. So whether they go for one variance or 10 variances, the effort and the time and is the same, so they might as well go for absolutely everything, so there's no
Sure.
question as to what they can and cannot do. Hold on one second. Just note, before you go to the ZBA, there's a couple of changes to the bulk table. I would just note the required variances. In some instances, Brian lists them as pre-existing nonconformities carrying over. I would just, again, go down the list and distinguish what's really a pre-existing versus a required variance. Livable floor area, he gave you too much. It's only 900 square feet, not 1,200. FAR, he needs to provide those calculations so we can confirm it doesn't exceed 0.25 floor area ratio.
Oh, floor area ratio, okay.
That wasn't in his group. Just check, front yard is listed as 6.5 on the bulk table, but the plans identify 16.7.
Mm-hmm.
If you like the 16.7 a little bit better.
Yep.
So I was just looking at that one there.
Yep, it's 16, yeah, but here he has it,
Yeah,
it's 6.5.
and I, like, even if you went to there, there's not that difference, so I think it was just a typo.
Oh, and he's only going,
I was
oh,
going
he's
to the
going to the
lot
lot line, okay.
Yeah,
I wasn't at the
I think
wire.
it's just a typo.
That it shouldn't be 16, that it should be
You mean 16
16.7.
point, not 6.5.
It's 6.5 here,
Yeah.
in the bulk table.
Yeah,
Yeah, on the plan it's 16.7, but the bulk table is
yeah,
16.5.
you want that to,
Yeah.
because that's a lesser
Yep.
variance.
Yep,
We should show
You- You want this distance?
that's when we come back to the planning board.
The furthest bump out.
I would do that before you go to the.
Yeah.
Versus here.
And again, just, you don't need to necessarily,
I think it's a
Oh, yeah, it's a
like a
shed.
bay window.
Oh, it's a, okay,
It's a little shed.
It's like a, it's not foundation, it's
got it.
it's like a bump out for a window with a
Okay.
little roof over it.
So have a shot. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
you don't necessarily need to come back to us to do that. Just again, dimensions of the proposed addition to be provided to determine compliance with both standards and confirm the required variances.
Dimensions of proposed addition.
Proposed addition, yeah.
For the zoning board,
It'd be this line across.
Yeah, because,
the
You
zoning
wanna
board
see
needs
the-
it
you
too.
wanna-
well, because you're gonna need it to calculate floor area ratio.
Yeah.
And if you
And
need a
they'll
variance
ask-
of that,
Need the variance here.
Yep,
This- eh,
so, that's not too, but I'm not gonna make you come back to, okay.
No.
Applicant to identify parking spaces per 14570A4. Driveway for a two-family residence may count as one parking space, other than on a corner lot where the visibility at intersection is to be safeguarded. That's a site plan issue for you guys, when you look at it.
if only if visibility is an issue.
Correct.
So based on the language, 4 spots are required? We have room for 6.
Yeah, room for-
I think
Oh.
it's two per
Oh, here?
unit.
Yeah, so 2 can fit front to back here, 2 could fit front to back here.
Okay.
We do have the ability, you don't have setbacks on parking areas,
Yeah, no.
just need screening, so we could go deeper. That wouldn't be our preference. If parking is needed, we could create it before there. There's also street parking, and then there's a municipal lot.
But you can't park overnight in the wintertime, so.
Yeah, I was gonna
But
say-
there's the
The
municipal lot.
municipal
right?
lot's over here.
Yeah, it's
Right
right,
there.
it's where your belly button is, yeah.
Okay.
I just have one question on the parking, so. In the code, it does say parking shall not be permitted in any required yard. So how does that?
But you can, so, the way I read the code, and Jane can chime in here, is that you don't want to start filling up your front yard. The code has that the driveway can count as, one space. So if you have that driveway. So I'll defer to Brian in that regard, and you also may also consider the other parking provisions with respect to the interplay of off-site parking. So that's a broader discussion, and I'll defer to their engineer on how they wanna broach it. I'm just drawing it to their attention.
Generally, you'd want parking back here, not here. You don't want to park this on Wheeler.
Yeah, I
This
know
is
in-
this
in
is Cherry, but
Yeah, you
past
did-
applications,
There's an apartment
It
back
makes
here,
more
right?
sense.
Yeah.
Another driveway goes,
Yeah, this is the
I mean,
parking
the
for
other
the
thing is you could
apartments.
Yeah.
request.
Yeah, there's some
Trees that
Right.
here already.
We
Which
already
group?
hear
Shrubbery,
Shrubbery.
here.
yeah, you put, if
Could
you
you
put,
also get, where his elbow is there enough room to get a small
There.
driveway there?
There's really, so when you read the code and I try to interpret it, that to me would be parking on the front yard.
yeah.
If it's a driveway, you get it.
You get it though.
Yeah,
So
because
it's something we can have the engineer look at. It's an option.
So I've heard both. I've heard from, in a previous application, that a driveway is for driveway and not for parking. So you could have a driveway in a setback, you can't
the
have a
number
car
of
parked
driveways in
there.
this village where they've
So
got a
let's-
car
let's-
parked.
unless
Oh,
they-
I know,
I'm just saying,
Unless they put a garage here.
if you really want a belt and suspenders, and this is a low-cost exercise, the applicant can request an interpretation from Boris
That's,
as to the parking. If we did this and we did this, and he can give you an interpretation, you might wanna do that first, because then you can appeal said interpretation and wrap it all up in one. I'm not telling you how to prosecute your application, but, that doesn't take much time. You shoot Boris an email and say, Boris would like an interpretation.
Yeah, we'll come hang out with Kristen again. She likes us.
I mean, this is the best for the
This is the best
neighborhood and
For the
everybody.
neighbor,
Oh, it is,
rather
yeah.
rather than have
Yeah.
parking in the front of the house. This is the front of the house.
yeah, 'cause this is already a driveway here, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
And
the
they've got like
driveway.
two cars here, there'd be another car, I mean, it just looked like a parking lot essentially, so.
I'm just
Yeah.
just
The
throwing
good
it
news
out.
is we have the space for parking in the rear of the property.
And you put, then you put some shrubbery around it.
Yep.
And it's further away from this intersection, so
Yeah, if
if
you
you're
put it on
backing
that-
in here and pulling in, you're not
Very
dealing with.
What
all
they
that
don't
stuff.
want is like a house where you have
Yeah,
a
just a
thin
row,
strip and then
yeah.
cars just go.
Right.
Yep.
So typically you have a, particularly in this neighborhood, you have a driveway, maybe leading up to a garage, maybe not. And there's, and so our village code counts that driveway as one spot, and that does not count as parking in a yard, so long as you're on the driveway. If you park cars all across the front of the house, that's a different story. That's the extent of my comments. So again, we are in a position, particularly with the seeker posture, that we can refer on that basis. I do note, again, my comments in number 9, those changes may require adjustments to the applicant. I don't necessarily know that they need to come back, but just be aware that if those measurements change and the ZBA variance changes, that they'll have to go back to the ZBA to modify it. So we wanna go through and hammer those out.
Get those correct, go to the zoning board, get the approval with it correct, when
Right.
you come here.
But because
everything's set, ready
if
to
you're
go.
wrong when you go and you get approval on the wrong number,
Then we're going back.
then you go
Yep.
back. So just
And
make
it's
sure.
January.
Right.
Check your-
Which is true.
And what
That's
exactly
across
can
your
you
Ts.
tell the applicants that they need from Boris?
So what I'm recommending, and I will follow up with Boris, is an email, is an interpretation as to the parking requirements with respect to the front yard and the applicant's proposal, because it sounds like they're talking two stacked parking spaces, whether that satisfies their code.
Okay.
Okay, and if it does not, they can then appeal that incorporate as part of their variance, appeal to that determination that this is and go through that, because it's also a zoning issue that can go to the ZBA.
And that's on our new ZBA application, an appeal. You'll see it.
So it's an interpretation through an appeal,
Yeah,
through an appeal, okay.
We
so you're
have
gonna
that.
ask for area variances and an interpretation. Depending on, if you like the interpretation, then you don't need to,
Right.
you don't need to
You
appeal it.
appeal
If you
Oh,
don't
so-
like
So it's
it,
interpretation first.
Yes.
Boris issues an interpretation.
Yes.
And in the conversation we had with him upstairs, that was, he thought that was the best idea for the parking.
He just needs to
Yeah.
put
On
his
paper.
as the
In an
legal
email.
posture is, he's the building inspector, he is the arbiter, he is the statutory arbiter of the code.
Yep.
He gets to put that in writing. If you like it, then you don't need to
Okay.
do
You
anything
don't have to
further.
do the
If you
appeal.
don't like it, then incorporate it into your appeal if you do
Sure.
the appeal of that and then
Okay.
variances.
That's
Okay.
good.
Is there anything else we can do to make sure this goes smoothly when we see this application again? In-
It's a time.
I think the best thing what you can do with any application to facilitate the application is to make the comments as early and upfront as you can. The way I like to do it is that my comment memos get smaller and smaller. You'll see on my little thing that I start putting comment satisfied, comment satisfied, comment satisfied. If I have to start adding comments, that usually means you didn't listen to me when or you completely changed the project halfway through the project. I've had that happen. So that's the best thing to do to facilitate it, and if the applicant provides clear submissions in response to the comments. You know, I can tell you, 15 years of doing this, the applicants that go, okay, they said this, check, 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 moves the application along. The ones that are like, oh, I think I'm gonna address this one, but I'm gonna ignore that one, and I'm gonna, yeah. Those are the ones that we, month after month after month, hey, didn't we talk about doing this?
I do have one question. So
Sure.
there are no sidewalks, correct?
There's an existing concrete walk here
On the property.
on the property that
There's no
exists.
sidewalks.
There's a sidewalk that goes across the
There's
front.
nothing here.
There's nothing there, correct?
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But your property does not include the sidewalk.
Property does not include sidewalk, no.
No.
Okay, really, okay.
It's not here.
There is
Water
a sidewalk
service.
on the other side of the street.
Electrical
On
service,
the
gas,
side of
electric, gas line?
the gas lines
Gas over
here,
here? Okay.
electric overhead wires
Into
here.
here?
Water comes in.
And water comes in here.
Yep.
And,
Um,
and water goes out?
Where's this?
Septic line?
Does the sewer come in by the water line? I think it does.
That would usually how it works,
Yeah.
but it's not shown, so we're
It's
just
not
gonna
shown,
show
so
it.
we could add sewer.
Yeah.
I had to mark it out because I had them turn off the water. So I have a picture of it, I'm pretty sure.
And where's the septic line? Service going out?
That's where we'll have that added.
I believe it comes out the front where that
Somewhere
water
here,
line is.
probably.
Okay, so you'll put it on there.
Yep, we'll add that. And by the way, September is the best case scenario, and if we come in, there's things that we need to interchange, we'll address every single thing. We're happy to come back, too, so,
Thank you.
yeah. As far as making the recommendation, I've seen municipalities try to do this, and if you recommend, but then the zoning board denies, it puts the zoning board and the planning board at odds with each other. I wouldn't say you should recommend, but you can say this, we feel this project conforms to the comprehensive plan and to what the planning board is aspiring to do, without recommending the project specifically. So if the zoning board finds that the variances can be approved, we feel this project is in harmony with the neighborhood. So it's not a recommendation, but it's,
It's a gentle show.
Yeah.
It's a gentle
Yeah,
drainage.
that's because
I also call it what I tell my boards is that the applicant is looking for a warm and fuzzy. If you hate the project, tell them you hate the project
Yeah.
early. If you don't hate the
Right, I
project,
get that.
Yeah.
there's nothing worse than having an applicant go through the process and everything's moving along, and then all of a sudden people are like,
Left turn.
Yeah.
yeah, we'll spend $10,000 or $15,000 before we touch it in another 6 or 8 months by going through all this, which we're comfortable with doing, but yes is a good answer, no is a good answer. The wishy-washy 6
Sure.
month to find out it's no is really tough. We've been through that before, right, Liz?
I don't think we're wishy-washy.
you had to get that in, I knew you were gonna do that. Well played.
I just want to reiterate that the comprehensive master plan envisioned over a long period of creating that document, a higher density housing that didn't look like a strings of apartment buildings. And I think this is just the kind of thing, I mean, we don't get to say what it looks like in the end, but it sounds like your vision is something that fits in the neighborhood, looks attractive next to
Yeah.
the single-family big old house next door, which is what the comprehensive master plan committee
Yeah. This is
was looking for.
our town. I mean, I live in Florida, Chris lives in Warwick, but we started out this portfolio in Oneonta, where I went to school, and have moved it closer to invest where in the community we live in. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, our goal is to, make this as beautiful as possible so that the next time we come in, oh yeah, remember the one you did on Wheeler,
So I think now would be appropriate to make a motion to refer for the variances as cited. I would also just note that subject to confirmation, and we can just make that, you can have that as an approval by your engineer. So what I would suggest is have Brian, and what I mean is have Brian adjust the map, send it to Keith and Jane first, so he can just take a quick look at it before you submit it.
Keith and Zane are zoning board attorney and
Keith,
Hi.
Jane. Engineers.
Attorney and both engineers.
Yeah, well,
I'm filling in for Keith tonight.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I was trying not to leave it out. So Keith Woodruff is our principal engineer. So what I would offer is, when you have the comments, solve number 9, those numbers, have Keith just shoot a confirmatory email that the variances are X, Y, Z, so we're all on the same page. I don't think they need to come to the planning board to do that. I think that's purely an engineering confirmation. I would say get it to Keith a couple of days, give him enough time to review it before the submission deadline so that you can do that.
Deadline being June 3rd. So we have time to do that pending him.
Yeah.
He's allowed to have paternity leave, so we'll cross paths soon.
So,
Yeah.
so subject to that,
Be ready
so
to
again,
get out of the house
subject
by
to Keith confirming those numbers, I would ask for a motion to refer, based on the comment memos.
I'll move that we refer the applicant to the ZBA for the necessary variances and look forward to seeing a more fully developed application as soon as they're ready.
Is there a second?
Second?
Did you want to make the addendum to the warm and fuzzies on there, or?
Do you like that expression?
I'm gonna steal it.
That was
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I have a question. Isn't there the little spring that runs down here?
It's not on the property.
It's not on the
It's
property.
over.
It's over a little
somewhere
further.
over
It's
couple
couple houses
next
over?
property
I
over.
didn't snoop the neighborhood, but I know it's a couple, there's a bridge that,
houses over.
Yeah.
it's like 3 houses
Yeah.
down.
I
It's a
did-
couple-
I
it's a
did
couple
pull
over?
the FEMA map, it's not
Okay,
on the
it's
site.
not, okay,
It's
not on the
affect
property at
site.
all. It does,
Yep.
okay, that's all I want to know.
Not in
Did
the
we have to
100-year
make any
floodplain.
other motions, or are the applicants done?
The applicants are done.
Thank you so much for coming.
We're done tonight,
Bye.
boys.
Thanks for your time, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
You were allowed
Thank
after that
you.
one.
Thank you both so much.
I never actually, Chris and I talked about it on the way over. It was never your fault.
Good night. Good night, bye. I have to go to the restroom. But you don't need me.
We don't need you?
We always need.
Who's gonna run this?
I'll run it.
No.
Wait, I'll put it up there. Can you take a 5-minute break? Or what?
Take a motion to make a 5-minute recess to
Yes.
allow.
You need to use the laser.
I do.
Go.
Okay.
Sorry, this is where I make my lunch.
Wait, actually, before you go, can I ask a question? Do any other boards, is it possible, I guess, to have planning meet in the same building that zoning meets on the same night? And even though, like, our current application wouldn't be able to necessarily go right over and come back, would it help to stagger? I can only think, like, I worked in a hospital and they had every department working apart. And then we began to collaborate, and every building, instead of housing separate departments, housed.
So, there are, generally speaking, you can have a joint public hearing. Usually it's for joint public hearings.
Okay, that's
Part
right.
of the problem is, it is a little akin to herding cats, because you're a board of 5, you have council, engineer, they're a board of 5, they have separate counsel, for the zoning board, which is appropriate, because the zoning board is appealing often your determinations or your findings. So you can have joint public hearings. It's not common beyond the joint public hearings to do that. And that's largely in part because you're considering this from 2 very different standards. They have a very set statutory standard that they have to apply when they are making a determination. And there's a 5-part standard with respects to granting the variances. So in that regard, often they don't meet together or meet simultaneously. The nice thing you can do is try to line up their schedules so that there's a week or 2 between the planning board meeting and the submission date for the ZBA, so that if, an applicant coming from here that needs to go to the ZBA, they can turn it around. But it can, the biggest issue is coordinated review. That tends to happen on larger scale projects, because, again, you're kind of doing this chicken or the egg, like, you gotta get all the way through seeker and you run the risk, but then
you know, do you want two separate reviews? So on the big projects, a coordinated review is appropriate, but it kinda,
Is there a zoning board meeting that is like, you know, maybe one that's for faster projects that aren't as in-depth, and then, you know, like staggered those meetings? I know, we don't have to take up the time right now
Yeah,
of
let's
everybody, I
go
just.
You're gonna
let's
do
go
that
to
after
the,
the-
can we go
Just-
to the
of course, yeah,
yesterday's
we-
project,
we're just
sorry.
buying
And-
time.
and thank you, good, you're on back.
I think Jane's
John,
done.
come on up.
Thanks, Jane.
All right, no problem. So I'm gonna head out unless you
Okay,
need me
yes,
at the end. Do you want
and
me to
Jane is
stay?
recusing herself from the yesterday's
I do,
project,
'cause I
and
just wanna learn more.
we have, Pitengaro and
I know.
Dosh as the alternate engineer for yesterday's. Thank you,
was-
Jean.
I was so
Sorry.
confused when I
Thank
saw
Do
Jason
you
going
want
into the
me-
high school, I
I
was
already
like, wait.
hang around for the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
And
She's
hopefully-
in the 6th grade, so they go on after.
Yeah,
Alright, so final application for discussion tonight is yesterday's amended site plan review. Alright. I think we got the most recent comment letter today, right?
Yeah.
Response letter?
Yes,
Brian's
Brian.
having a baby.
Yeah, yeah.
He's got his
Just
hands full.
exciting.
Yes, he does.
These are his comments.
Right, those are his responses to the.
That's right, Brian's. Yep.
Yep. Liz, do you wanna go through some of your?
Bye, Jean.
sure, I don't, I don't have terribly many, comments with respects to, legal comments. I did attempt to facilitate the application, and we circulated, just to
Draft
start
resolution.
Yeah.
start discussion, we circulated a draft resolution, so just bear with me 1 second.
You want me to get that up?
No, I got it.
Okay.
I'm gonna skip through all of
Do you want the comment memo or the draft? Oh, you're going to draft.
The one minor, legal that I saw, the plans do have a notation that the sign, which, appears to be installed in the railroad right away, would be relocated. My understanding is that the applicant has made some contact with the railroad. I have, if there's, a written authority, I have no qualms, leaving the sign there. I would just, make a condition of resolution that we need one or the other, either the written authority, and in the absence of the written authority, that the
Move the
sign
sign.
be, the sign be
Well,
moved.
Mike Moser got a letter
Mhm.
from the railroad yard.
Yes.
So I
Everybody,
just-
everybody saw that.
And
Okay.
I would add to that, that if for some reason the railroad ever came through and said, yeah, you know how we said you could have the sign there
Right.
10 years ago? If that ever changed, the applicant is on notice that he may have to move the sign, he may have to move the sign in the future. Because unfortunately, we don't control the railroad. And of the, most of the remaining comments are engineering comments. I did go through, Jason's memo, and had two different highlights. I believe that I'm of the opinion, unless, there's disagreement, that a lot of these can be handled as
Condition.
conditions to approval, and I would, defer to the engineers to hash that out. Any final discussions? Let me just, and a lot of these can be conditions, that need to be addressed prior to certificate of occupancy. You know, a lot of this is post-building permit, because effectively we're through the building permit. The building itself has a TCO, and this would just be a final CO for the entire site. So, the sign's one issue, the lighting comments, landscaping as-built, obviously those are not gonna be an issue for, your purposes. Those can all be handled after the fact.
Yeah, so we had the opportunity to review Linda's draft resolution, and we thought it incorporated all the open comments that we had that haven't been addressed at this time. We can go through them, they're pretty much all the same as you saw in January, it's just a few kind of minor items that can be taken care of as conditions.
So between then and now, this is all the driveway that had to be redone with
Oh,
dirt,
yeah,
seeded,
take the gravel, yeah.
got rid of the gravel, put various seeds on all the spots that was mentioned. Here's the fence behind the building for the air conditioners. Here's the fence around the dumpster. And everything else is pretty much completed.
Yeah, I think we'd just be looking for the site plan to reflect these changes,
Mhm.
because ultimately that's what governs the site, so it should be just minor updating of notations for the most part. So I think Brian should be able to accomplish that.
Yeah.
You want me to go through what I've written for the record?
I think so, yeah, just make sure we captured all the,
Okay.
because it looks like the majority of it,
Yeah.
the concerns are addressed.
And the
Okay.
only thing we're waiting on technically is the trees that are going in the parking lot. I requested the other day when I was with the mayor, I gave them a check for, if I didn't complete it, you had to check. I need to check back to buy the plants.
Oh,
That's a mayor decision.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that's
We-
a,
That will be accomplished.
Okay,
That's,
no,
that's
I'm just
fine,
saying,
and-
that's one of those where,
okay.
Yeah.
unfortunately, money is missing.
Okay, so I'll just go through this, bear with me, this is the same document, and I may be editing as we go, so we can just have those discussions, so if you need to stop me, let me know. Nature of the application, the owner is seeking amended site plan approval to address field changes made during construction, including amendments to the proposed stormwater management facility plantings, reconfiguration of several improvements, including HVAC units, dumpster enclosure, parking and replacement, and relocation of part of the proposed fire access road with compacted gravel instead of asphalt pavement. Zoning district, the property is located in the light industrial zoning district. The proposed use is permitted use falling under use group K. I list the plans and the materials submitted. I also note that we take materials considered as part of the prior approval are incorporated in reference, because certainly I can tell you, both Jason and I have gone back and forth between existing approval documents for history and things like that. Date of application, yesterday's restaurant received site plan approval for constructing and eating and drinking, eating and drinking, not eating and drinking. Establishment together with related site improvements in February 2018. The project received reapproval in 2021. An application for amended site plan approval was received on September 19th, 2024, and first heard by the planning board at its October 8th, 2024 meeting. GML 239 referral, the application is not subject to GML 239. The project was previously reviewed as an unlisted action. The planning board conducted an uncoordinated review, held a public hearing on October 17, 2017, and issued and adopted a negative declaration. Upon review of the instant application, the planning board finds that the amendments are consistent with the planning board's 2017 negative declaration and hereby reaffirms those prior findings. Public hearing, given the nature of the improvements, the planning board waived the public hearing pursuant to 145-96 by resolution dated December 8th, 2024. Findings, and this is where you're going to stop me because this is what you're finding. The planning board has determined that approval of the amended site plan is consistent with the village's code and comprehensive plan, and that the amendments to the site do not negatively affect the public convenience, safety, and welfare of the community. Now therefore, the planning board resolves to grant the amended site plan application of 16 Elm Street Realty LLC as depicted on the plans identified above upon the conditions set forth below, and the chairperson or his designee is authorized to sign the plans upon satisfaction of those conditions below, which are noted as conditions precedent to signing. Okay, bear with me. General conditions. This approval is conditioned on the applicant submitting all necessary copies of the plan to be signed as required to the Village of Warwick Planning Department. This approval is further conditioned upon the applicant paying fees or depositing into escrow all applicable review, inspection, and other applicable fees. It's further conditioned on the applicant delivering prior to signing of the plans proof in writing that fees, engineering, legal, or otherwise, in regards to the project have been paid. Plans shall not be signed until written confirmation by the village engineer that all conditions of this approval have been fulfilled or otherwise satisfied. The conditions of this approval, i.e. the timing to get the plan signed, is 12 months and that's per our code, 12 months from the date set forth in the foot of this resolution. The applicant can request an extension. I don't think he wants one, I think he wants this finished. And he can file a request for an extension to extend that time period. Okay.
All conditions precedent, this is a general condition that we have in all of our applications, so it's a carryover. All these conditions have to be satisfied, the conditions precedent have to be satisfied prior to the issuance of a building permit. I believe the building has already been permitted. If any of the site improvements require their own separate building permit, that would apply. No approval is intended or to be given or is given by this resolution for site plan elements depicted on adjoining properties. Okay. The construction hours of this project site shall be limited to the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. on weekdays and 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. on Saturdays. There shall be no construction on Sundays. Condition precedent to signing the plan. Applicant to revise environmental assessment form, Brian may have already accomplished this. If they did, it's merely a check off, I'm just noting this. As per May 13th, 2025 memorandum of Pittengarrow and Deutsch, gravel areas to be removed shall be identified on the plan. Note 14 to be updated to read no generator shall be permitted to be installed on site without amended site plan approval.
Okay, can
I have a-
I interrupt
Yeah, I
on
was
that
gonna
one?
question that.
Because on that, nobody in this village needs site plan
Site plan
approval
approval for a generator.
For a generator.
That's, I
So-
can have that removed.
Okay.
It was
Yeah, I
carrying
think-
over
Well,
comments.
it's, I want the board to recognize that, it's not my
Yeah, I
vote,
saw that in
I'm
the
just telling you,
response letter too,
people
that-
just need a building permit
that
for a
was questioned.
generator on their property.
I think it,
So I think,
yeah, I think it came from because the original site plan had a generator.
Yeah,
Right,
if I can
shown on
chime
it.
in, we had made that note because the original site plan had a generator and then all the AC units were moved to the rear and then Mr. Friedler had stated that there would be no generator on site, so that's why the AC units
Right,
are
but it-
appropriate in the rear so that it wouldn't create noise back there. So that's why we felt that that comment may be appropriate, but it's ultimately up to the board and the attorney.
I can convert that no generator shall be permitted to be installed without a building permit, because you do need an electrical permit for
Right.
generator.
you need a
That's
building
fine.
permit for a
Come back to the
generator,
board.
but
Is that,
That
is that the wish of the
unnecessary.
planning board?
Yes.
Okay, on site without, a building permit.
Right, or whatever required approvals there are.
yeah, like, I don't even, I honestly, I mean,
It's an
you're the,
electrical permit.
you're the planning board, but nobody would put that on a site plan, that has nothing to, it's the building inspector that decides that, not the
Yeah,
planning
no,
board.
it originated because it was on the original site plan.
Right.
So
Okay.
there was no, it was a physical thing on the site plan, and then there was discussion about noise and, you know,
Right.
all the other stuff that had to be put in place to
Because
make
the
sure that the
manufacturer
neighbors.
Put a note on it that says it's left up to the building inspector.
Well, we're just, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, now it's fine. I think
Okay.
it's just, I think that's where it came
Again,
from.
that's why I try
Okay.
to the extent I can, go through and pre-draft, and then we can have the discussion, so like I said, I'm editing as we go, so the record can reflect that. Applicant to correct parking lot striping as per the May 13th, 2025 memo. Applicant to add two additional canopy trees and 20 address, no, that's not right.
I think it should say additional.
Additional address, where,
Shrubberies.
additional shrubs to landscaping plan. I have this highlighted, I believe the storage containers have already been removed from the
Yes,
site,
they
so
have.
it's a non-issue,
Yeah.
so I can remove that
They
condition.
have, as of, they weren't recently.
They're gone now.
No, okay, because they saw them the other day. All right.
Okay. Conditions precedent to the issuances of a certificate of occupancy, again, based on my understanding of the plan, everything that has that is required to have a building permit already has it, so that's kind of why there's a gap. Okay. And this is, I'm gonna edit this. One is relocate sign in the alternative. Ooh, come here. No, stop. The alternative applicant shall provide documentation that the railroad authorizes the sign in
Well,
the event.
well, the text message is, you know, saying he's not going to be able to get documentation from, so
I'm just,
can you word it in a different way that's acceptable to the planning board
Well, it's gonna have
about
to
the
be moved,
sign?
or there's gonna have
Because,
to be approval
the
from.
documentation
railroad.
right now is the text
Isn't the
message.
text message
Okay, fine.
documentation?
Okay, good.
Counts as documentation.
In the event, the railroad
wants it off at a later
withdraws,
date, I'll take it off.
withdraws consent in the
Right.
future,
That's,
That's fine.
for your
Applicant
voting purposes,
shall
I think
move.
that's better.
shall relocate sign. So I would leave the notation on the site plan so that we have a location, so that he doesn't need to come back to the planning board to say, hey, we're moving a sign. So wherever,
Yeah,
It says to be relocated entirely on owned property.
that's what it says.
that's fine. I don't care with that. Okay, sign to, on site. Landscaping to be installed as per landscaping plan. As-built plans to be provided to the village engineer for review and approval upon completion of the improvements. The village engineer may require a preliminary as-built plan if sooner, if she determines that a preliminary as-built plan is required. I don't know that we need to do, I'm comfortable removing that second sentence because of where we were in construction. If we were at the beginning of construction,
Right.
we wouldn't need an interim as-built, so I'm happy removing that sentence. This is a carryover from the last approval. I did check with the village to see, and I don't know if one was submitted, so I've carried it over. The applicant is to prepare and submit to the attorney for the planning board an offer of dedication in deed and recordable form for an easement running to the village for an existing drainage way to allow for entry upon repair, maintenance, and replacement as deemed necessary by the village. See condition 8 of the February 15th, 2018 approval. So I have that there as a carryover from the prior approval.
That was when Frank had it.
When Frank had it. So
Frank had it, the approval was, there's a storm drain that goes from West Street. It's still there.
let me
We
just,
don't
give me one
have-
second. Give me
We
one.
don't have that documentation. That's the
Let
problem.
me just, give me 30
Okay.
seconds.
Okay, thank you.
Orange
I-
County Land Record. I maybe, if it was under Frank, because I searched the Elm Street LLC.
Boris
Do you
and I were
remember off the
speaking
top
to
of your
Rena
head,
today,
Mr. Petrus,
and
the
they
ownership
weren't-
name of, let me just see.
It was Frank Petrucci, Linda, and.
Was it in their individual name?
There was 3 of them. Frank, Linda, and I don't remember the other brother.
Give me a second, let me see if I can.
Tucci and, not that one.
I do not see anything recorded. That doesn't necessarily mean. I can also offer to follow up with John Capello, because he would have been the one that would do a prepared.
No, he didn't do that.
He can do that.
It was a carryover from Frank.
We don't have it recorded at the village. It never came to the village board. Apparently, these things come through the village board, and Boris, Rena, and I spoke, and we don't have anything. So, I don't know.
So I'll coordinate, I'll talk to Brian, I'm gonna leave it there as a
Okay.
placeholder. Obviously, if we determine that it's been submitted and it's a matter of recording, we'll take care of that. That is not necessarily an issue to signing, again, I've left it as an issue of certificate of occupancy. So the board can, it's not a condition, I've left it again as a condition of certificate of
So this is a
occupancy.
condition from
Prior approval,
the prior approval,
Yeah.
which is hasn't satisfied
yep. And
whether
then-
it was an existing
Mhm.
easement or not.
Yeah,
I mean, the pipe is still there.
yeah.
I know it's still there.
I get the sense that somebody prepared it. I get the sense that it could be in a file and somebody just hasn't found it.
I
I
can
did-
check with Frank if he's got the original.
That would be great.
Is there any way to word this if one isn't
Right.
filed, or just,
Right.
you know, so that we don't have to revisit this?
Exactly.
Like if there isn't one that has been already previously
Yes.
filed.
Just come up with one, I mean.
It shouldn't,
Back in 20.
it's probably here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the pipe.
That's the pipe. Is the water still running through the pipe?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
It also
that
goes
doesn't-
through that.
Yeah.
and I'm
property on
certainly
West
happy to provide, his consultants with a template
and I would just need the meets and bounds of this, a description, whether it's meets and bounds, whether it's a, the pipe is identified.
So the village,
So this
Yes,
would
the
be an
village's
easement
pipe.
from this property to the village,
To access
to allow the village to
Right.
come onto the property to maintain this,
that little section.
Okay,
correct?
it also was, when we put the fence around the property, there's a cement culvert type of thing that West Street goes into, and then the other one comes out the other side, is technically on, property, it's right on this property, well, that, right there.
Right.
So it's half on her property and my property. That's what that is right there. The storm drain goes into that and then continues that way.
Yeah.
So it's on,
So it's there's a dig over there.
Straddles
There's a
straddles
dig-
two pieces of property. So when we put the fence up, we gave her you couldn't put the fence down the
Right,
middle.
on it, yeah.
So I lost 3 feet of property, so it's on her side, whatever,
No,
to make life
understand.
easier.
It's tough when the improvements on both lines, that's,
Right, I don't know, but that was done,
like I said, I'm happy to, and look, if we find out after the fact that that it either has been addressed one way or another, or it's been filed, we can
This here.
easily mark.
So, just to back up,
Mhm.
there would have to be theoretically easements of this piece of property, this
There would
one,
be-
this one.
Well, no, he can only control what
No,
he
I
does.
know,
can't
I'm saying the
control that.
village though would,
Village have an easement to this piece, right? Do they have a
I-
easement?
right, it's not part of this application.
No, I know
We're
it's not
asking
part-
the applicant from,
This
Here,
piece,
we're
here,
asking
This
from
piece right
here,
here,
or whatever's on his
right
property.
here.
yeah,
whatever's on my property.
whatever's
Yeah.
on his property, that we can come onto the property
Right.
and cover that.
Right.
Right,
That's, we can't ask him to give what he doesn't know.
That's true.
No, no.
right.
That's, I'm just curious,
Yeah,
because
and sometimes villages and municipalities use the site plan process to clean this up, where there's hey, there is a storm drain here that we did that just now with the car wash, where there was an easement that was recorded out of order. We're using this process to clean up that recording. So again, as I was preparing this resolution, since I'm new to the application, I was not here for the prior history. I was kind of going through and seeing what conditions, and any condition I had a question on whether it was satisfied, I carried over to the instant resolution, just so nothing slips through the crack in the intent of the planning board. And also, some of that is because we have reaffirmed our seeker finding, we would be reaffirming if you were to adopt this resolution tonight. You want to make sure that the conditions that carry over are consistent with that seeker finding. So you made these conditions part and parcel of that seeker finding. The other one, and I apologize, I wrote them out. I wrote just the numbers. I should type them if you bear with me 1 second. Because I realize, looking at that means nothing to you. Give me one. Thank you. 2018. Some of these are statements of the obvious, but I just carried them over. The issuance of the certificate of occupancy for the restaurant structure to be built within the project area is conditioned on the applicant installing site plan improvements inclusive of privacy fencing and landscaping as for provided on the site plan. That's a duh statement. Prior to and as a condition of the issuance of certificate of occupancy for the restaurant facility, the applicant shall first post with the village clerk a maintenance bond, cash certificate deposit, or a revocable letter of credit. My understanding is that's been in process with the village, and there may be you're gonna have some discussions with the mayor. The village board can opine on that, but I am carrying over the condition from that condition. And then
Do we need to specifically note the height of the building and the handicap ramp? As far as, because I think the height of the
I
building is
think
gonna be
that-
sign
I think
sealed
they-
elevation
so-
drawing.
With respects to, one of the conditions that was even in the original approval was the as-built. The as-built will provide what
Okay,
the engineer needs to determine.
to
because
satisfy those two.
Yeah, because if the as-built comes back that it's not,
Doesn't show that.
doesn't,
right.
it doesn't meet ADA compliance,
Right.
I'm less worried about the building, I'm more concerned about the ADA compliance of the ramp.
Mhm.
That would be reflected on
Well,
the
each
as-built.
floor is technically 10 feet 4 inches. And the village height is what, 35, 34?
Maximum height, 35, I think.
So it's
It's
40.
okay, okay, so
Yeah,
can
and
we
then-
keep reading?
And then 17, a certificate of occupancy shall be issued upon completion of the improvements, shall be specifically issued upon and subject to the provisions of general note 13, 13.1, and 13.2 as the same appear on the site plan. There's 3 12s. So yeah, it should be 12, so I will copy that and update it. It got converted to 12.1 and 2. Those are related to your noise and the restriction that if it gets too noisy and doesn't exceeds our code, that the porch area would not be used.
Well, I already did a sound check.
Yeah,
6
that was
months
on
after
the original, yeah.
No, before we did a sound check before I opened,
Mhm.
6 months after, and the guy was there and we submitted that to the village that was,
Yeah, that's been satisfied.
That note's remaining on the plan, so it just was listed as a condition, and again, I carried it over. Given the change in numbers, what I will do is part of my edit is I will copy and change the numbers so that when somebody goes 13, where's 13.1? Because 13.1 doesn't exist, but it's very clearly referring to 12, 12.1, 12.2. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Specific conditions, this goes on everybody's application, landscaping to be maintained in perpetuity. Installation of fill shall be limited to the areas depicted on the site plan identified above. Further installation of fill beyond that depicted shall be subject of an amended application before the planning board. I don't think that's gonna be an issue. The terms and conditions of the prior site plan approval dated February 15th, 2018 and June 8th, 2021 shall remain in full force and effect unless expressly superseded by this amendment.
Right, so even the easements are already covered with that
Yeah.
condition.
So unless we so for example, I'll give you an example. The condition that this be asphalt, that condition is specifically superseded by
Right.
this approval
Yep.
because
It's changed.
we made that change. The condition about, landscaping and the fencing, that's all that all carries over. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I'll move the resolution as modified.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
You have to roll call. Do we have to
Okay,
roll
I
call
am
vote?
going to roll call it. Scott Brown,
Aye.
Vanessa Holland,
Aye.
Jesse
Aye.
Gallo, Bill Olson,
Aye.
and Brian Barber,
Sure.
and Kerry Boland is absent.
I'll get that finalized, I'll circulate it tomorrow.
Okay, great. So
you can keep those
Can he go?
photographs.
He's all set.
okay, go ahead, grab your stuff and
Thank you very much.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Long
Do you
time
want your
coming.
your
photos?
pictures?
No,
The photos.
you can-
Okay,
Just add
Thank
it to
you,
the file
bye.
for your.
Congratulations, John.
Thank you.
and then shall we adjourn the meeting? Or unless you need to talk about other issues.
Got a lot of issues. Festivals.
I can fix, would you like me to correctly spell it?
It doesn't matter to us. I don't know if it matters.
I'll fix the spelling.
Yeah.
Where did I misspell it?
Are we adjourning
On
the
the top.
meeting?
I'll motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
So,
I see it, yep, and I, see, once I